Oh, wow.
Ready? Good evening, everyone. Notice hereby given that City Council, City of Alpine, Texas will hold a regular meeting at 5:30 p.m. on January 4th, 2022 in City Council chambers at 803 West Holland Avenue in the City of Alpine, Texas, for the purpose of considering the attached agenda. This notice is posted pursuant to Texas Open Meeting Act, Government Code, Section 551.043. Public notice: the use of cellular phones and electronic equipment is prohibited in the City Council chambers during meetings of the City Council except for purpose explicitly authorized by state law, Texas Government Code, Section 551.023. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with the official rules of decorum for City Council meetings available at www.cityofalpine.com/decorum. Public comments are limited to the public comment and public hearing section of the agenda. Individuals who wish to address the City Council may do so by completing a public comment card and by placing a completed card on the City Secretary's desk no later than 5 minutes before commencement of the meeting. The public comment card may also be completed online at www.cityofalpine.com/council comments. A public comment card is not required for speakers who wish to comment on the public hearing items. When regular speakers are acknowledged, please approach the microphone at the podium and state your name and the ward for the record. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and a bell will signal the end of each speaker's time. Please conclude comments promptly when the bell rings. State law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue not included on the agenda. But if appropriate, the council may schedule the topic for future discussion or refer the matter to staff. No personal attacks on council members or city staff will be allowed. The mayor and or city council members may call a point to order to stop personal attacks. If an individual continues to personally attack an elected official, staff member in a meeting, they may be barred. Call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance, please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Okay, City Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a quorum. Councilor Tandy is not present. All other council members are present here today. The notice of the meeting was posted on December 22nd at 2 p.m.
Okay. All righty, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
First up, we have Rick Stevens.
Okay.
Hi, I have 4 comments I'd like to make. First is referencing.
Could you please state your name and the ward you reside in, please, sir?
Sure, Rick Stevens, Ward 5.
Thank you.
I put that on the public comment card. First comment I have to do refers to item number 9-1 on the agenda, in particular chapter 23.18a, relative to only addressing comments that are on the agenda. This is the only body in Alpine that I have ever attended that has put that rule in place. I contend that is against the law, but this council chooses to make that. I make that comment. Second point I would make is that relative to the city manager's financial report that the city manager will walk through today. It's interesting to note on the summary page, what I would call the under revenue performance on the gas utility fund, which totals, the budget is over $2 million thus far, 160,000 in thus far. I expressed concern when the budget was put in place that council had no leeway. And given the budget right now and given the warm weather, I think council really needs to be talking about what its strategy is relative to to how much it's going to expend this year. The third point I'd make, and it ties back directly to 9-1. You know, I've heard council talk directly about there's really, not enough people attend city council. I would contend city council did a pretty good job of chasing people away. Because if you can't talk about anything that's other than what's on the agenda, why show up? And as will be happening tonight and happened at the last meeting, I come make my comments. I listen. I can go home and listen on Zoom call because it's a lot easier to do that. And I'm not impugned by council's requirements. You cannot use an electronic device unless allowed by 55(1), which is what I'm using, and I'm recording this portion of the meeting. Well, the last comment I'd make is with regard to the airport taxiways. It is clearly not on the agenda, but I'll make this comment anyway, that the city has had an agreement with those who build hangars. The city has chosen not to extend the taxiways. There have been comments made by individuals in this meeting that that potentially, including specifically me, got benefit, but I would tip from taxiways. There's no question I put in 2 hangars, built them out of my own expense, but I would tell you that for the 11 years that I've been in Alpine, the city of Alpine has paid for each and every taxiway that's been installed in the airport. That's contrary to what individuals have said before. Those are the end of my comments.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Karen Cantrell.
Karen.
Good evening, council, city manager, city secretary. My name is Karen Cantrell. I'm from Ward 1. And I see that on the agenda tonight is a finance update. There's 150 pages in that update. On page 22, there's a line item that interested me. It is waste recycle collection fees to the tune of $1,705,000. Now, as I told you before, we pay $43.38, the residents in this town, for waste every month. That's a lot of money. These are people that say that they aren't paid to pick up illegal dumping. I think they're paid quite well to pick up illegal dumping. Section 82-37 of our Code of Ordinances, containers to be provided by the contracted waste hauler. They are provided, but right under that is a sentence that's most important. The contracted waste hauler will provide and maintain collection containers for all residents and businesses within the city limits. A lot of the containers are not maintained. I'm sure you've seen the dumpster covers. They're warped, they're broken, they're falling off in some places. That's maintaining their equipment. Well, actually it's not, because they're not doing it. So I don't think we should be paying them this much money if they can't A, take the illegal dumping, and B, maintain their own equipment. It took me 8 months in 2020 to get 5 dumpster covers replaced. I had to involve my city council person at that time, Ms. Fitzgerald, but she didn't do anything. And then I talked to Stephanie Ladasic when she was in code enforcement. She spoke to John Nelson. This was 6 months after I emailed him. And finally, we had to get Megan involved. After Megan got involved, the dumpster covers got changed. The reason was I told them that if the contract was coming up for renewal, maybe you should check out just how their performance is before you renew the contract. And I urge you to do that again now. Thank you all for listening, and Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. Anybody else?
No, that's all.
That's it. Okay. And let's go. And we don't have any presentations, and I don't have a report. City attorney report.
Mayor and council, the city received a letter from the Texas Attorney General's office dated November 18th, 2021. The letter referred to a request for investigative assistance sent to the Attorney General's office by Robert Martin, the Chief of Police. And it says as follows: Dear Chief, the Criminal Investigations Division reviewed your request for investigative assistance regarding allegations of violations of the Texas Open Meetings Act by the Alpine City Council. Upon reviewing the allegations and information provided, the Criminal Investigations Division determined that the various allegations either do not constitute a criminal offense or do not rise to the level required for this office to open an investigation. Consequently, this office will not initiate a criminal investigation and will take no further action in this matter. Respectfully, Chief Jason Anderson, Criminal Investigations Division, Office of the Attorney General. Y'all know from my background that I've litigated the Open Meetings Act and criminal violations of the Open Meetings Act to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals twice, and very knowledgeable about what constitutes an Open Meetings Act violation and what doesn't. And none of the allegations were thrown sort of like mud at the City Council this past May and June ever rose to the level of a criminal violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Mr. Stevens, who just walked out, had a petition going around saying that members of the Alpine City Council violated the Texas Open Meetings Act, not being investigated for it, but that they violated it. And that's false. Now that's proven false. And I know that a couple of the new council members here have taken open meetings training. And if any of y'all ever have any questions about what is not a permissible action under the Open Meetings Act, I'm always available to answer your questions. The Attorney General has a handbook on that. But I'm proud to announce to all of y'all that y'all are completely clear and nobody's done anything wrong regarding y'all's actions as a City Council this year regarding the Open Meetings Act.
Are you at liberty to discuss what the alleged?
No, Mr. Martin did not give us his side of the story. We just got a letter from the Attorney General. So it speaks for itself. Other than that, everything else is going along well with the city from my perspective. We're going to have municipal court here in a couple of weeks, working with Megan and Jill on other matters.
Thank you, sir. Good report. Let's go with the city manager report.
I'll try to be as quick, but I can't make any promises.
Comfortable.
There's been a lot going on, and it is the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. But it's not the new part of the year for us. We are actually 3 months completed. 1 quarter has been finished. Lots of good things going on, lots of things that are up and coming, a lot of complicated issues, and kind of want to touch base with a little bit of everything for the city. In regards to the financial statement, I will say that Mr. Stevens is correct. We do have to monitor the gas department, but we also know that the primary months where the money will start to hopefully flow in due to freezing temperatures is January through March. So we don't start panicking or having concerns until we get closer to the end of February, beginning of March, because that's when their money seriously starts to come in. It's the opposite for the water department. Their money is very low at the beginning of a fiscal year, and they don't start seeing those increases until the summer months. Everyone's filling up their pool, everyone's watering their grass, planting trees, thanks to Adelina's donations. So there is a difference in how we do look at that department. Overall, at the end, and this is November, next, the 18th will go over December as well. So overall, the city should be at about 16%. When you look at the general fund, we see a huge increase in our revenue sources in December, January, February. Everyone's paying their property taxes. So that's when you'll see the big influx. Otherwise, at 12%, this is minimum property taxes. You're solely looking at fines, fees, and sales tax. Our wastewater sanitation department, 13.33. This has the opposite effect of the gas. You'll see those increases come in the summer months. Airport is one that, and I brought this up last month as well. Airport is one that we're going to monitor really closely, and I've got Abel here, and I've already kind of told them you're in trouble. Their revenue does not balance well with their expenses. They're supposed to be at roughly 16 and they're at 27.8%. So they far exceeded the norm. And then they have expenses that have to be paid. So as we go through the different months and we look at the airport, where we will have to think long-term of, you know, do we need to make a budget amendment? What are other available sources? I got after him this morning, get those invoices out, let's get those revenues in. It is important. This is one of the only departments that we do have a little struggle with. At the end of the year, they're either barely balancing out or they've exceeded their revenues, and it's year after year. Hotel tax fund. This one, of course, is a little low. It's at 3% income. But once again, a lot of what got reported in October was for the prior year. So they are about a month behind. Their expenses they should be a lot higher. I've encouraged Heather and Chris to spend, to advertise, to get people in. And then we kind of came to a halt in discussing with the Omicron variants and the changes there. Do we want to take a step back on our advertising? Or do we still want to move forward? So we're kind of doing a balancing act on what's important for the city as a whole. We don't want to continue the spread, but in Texas, we are an open state. So we're balancing out the pros and the cons. The gas utility, yes, they're at 7.9% on their revenue, about 160,000. And then of course their expenses are slightly higher. As we got to the end of the year, they were required to meet their DIMP certifications, the number of feet they have to replace. The next meeting, Randy is going to give an awesome report and a great visualization. Total shocker to me when I saw it, of how much feet and footage has to be replaced and an overall map of what it looks like. I think it will be a great presentation. And of course, interest in sinking. We don't make our payments till March. So of course, there's no expenses. So it looks like, you know, absolutely doing wonderful with 14% income. This one gets hit twice a year, in March and then in September. Those are when all of our payments are due. We will be finalizing payments this year as well. A couple more debts will be paid off, which is an awesome, since I've been here. So slowly but surely we're getting them taken care of. When you look at the general report that was provided in the updated packet, it does provide the line item details. When I was going through this and looking at the different line items, I didn't see anything that stood out that was a shock, except for one, and that was an internal mistake. So when you look at the police department and the line item for maintenance and repairs, it's like 127 negative. They've spent all their money in, you know, a month, 2 months. That was a typo. A $56 invoice was put in as a 5,670. No, the check wasn't cut. It was just encumbered at such a high amount that it threw off the report. But these are the things we look at. These are the things that are all presented to the departments so that they can go in, and when they see these, they can be like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't spend that money. What happened? We made a clerical mistake and it got corrected. So when you look at December's report, you'll start to see a kind of a cleanup of the mistakes that got made in November that get fixed in December. Only because we didn't pay the invoice until then. It just got encumbered. Overall, all of the departments are doing really well with keeping in the minimum where they should be from month to month. Like I said, we should get 16%. Airport, poor Abel, he's going to get every month brought up, but airport is the one that we are focusing the most on so far, because their expenditures are going to exceed, it looks like. Abel's trying his best to work with other departments, and can I borrow envelopes, can I borrow paper, to make some ends meet. He does have equipment that has to be maintained and maintenance. We don't want our brand new tractor to get broken and sit there and not be fixed. So as he does his expenses and he goes through and he looks at his budgets, he's kind of understanding where he should and shouldn't be at. Other than that, on the finance side, I really was going to leave it open for questions from council. If you had any line items you wanted to discuss, anything that stood out to you.
Any questions? You're good.
Well, that's not it. That's
Oh,
just
I
the
thought
fun.
by not asking anything, we'd get by quicker.
I'm trying.
We're done.
And as the months get closer to the end of the budget, just please be aware there will be more in-depth conversations. We're so into the beginning of the year that there's a lot of things that may pop up that we're not aware of. We could have had a major incident this morning, but Randy's department was, available. He fixed it, didn't have that extra expense. It's when we have situations pop up, specifically with infrastructure. When we have something break, we're trying not to Band-Aid anymore. So we're trying to actually do our due diligence to replace it, to maintain it, and it does cost us a little more. We're also limited on where we get our resources. So as we continue through the year, you'll start to see these line items and they'll start to fluctuate and they'll start to go up. Some may change. And that's where maybe a director came in and said, hey, you know what, I want to move some line item money around so that I have more for my infrastructure than I do for my office supplies kind of deal. The other big issue that the city has unfortunately had to deal with is COVID. I do appreciate Karen dropped me an email in regards to our website. And we do need to make sure we keep that information as up to date and on our front page as possible. I noticed when I clicked on the county link, they haven't really updated the numbers or anything since October. That was as of this morning. So I want to make sure that the city is continuously trying to provide that information because we're still under COVID-19. We're still under the pandemic. The CDC has issued an updated guideline. Specifically, they've shortened the isolation, your quarantine period, to 5 days, plus 5 days of mask wearing for asymptomatic or if your symptoms are resolving. So CDC themselves, and which a lot of entities follow their guidelines, are also changing to what CDC is recommending. Currently, the city for city employees is we quarantine for 10 days. That is not going to change. As an unfortunate victim of COVID-19, you need time. If you jump back in, full force, you get tired, you get brain fog, you need a little extra time. We do have concerns. I did send a quick email to the hospital in regards to the reported numbers. And my thought process is the city had 7 employees test positive before the holidays. And the Texas Health and Human Services showed that we had 7 active cases. So I'm thinking, wow, it's all city employees. We know it's not true. We know that the reporting has really kind of stopped. It's not up to date. It's not as accurate as it was in the beginning. And one of the feedback what I got was the home tests. So there's a big push on home tests. You can buy them at Walgreens. You can get them, I believe, at CVS Pharmacy. And when you take the home test, everyone takes it, they get the results, but they don't follow the second step. You actually have to report it, whether you're positive or negative. So I'm speaking with Ruth at the hospital. I sent her a quick email like, is this accurate? And she kind of was under the same, unfortunately, no, the responses aren't as accurate. So 7 active cases was not all 7 of our employees. As of this morning, there was 4 COVID patients at the hospital. As of yesterday, Brewster County shows 7 active cases. We know that that's not true, but that's the data that's being provided. We continue to strongly recommend to the safe practices, social distancing, proper hygiene. Love this building. The girls, I swear, carry their Lysol and follow people around. We do spray here to ensure that not only do we, protect the employees, but the public as well. So we're constantly disinfecting. But I really do recommend as an employee and as a member of this community that we do strongly continue those safe practices because you just don't know. You may go out of town, you may do something, and it's unfortunate, but we do have those positive cases coming back. So our website is as up to date as possible, minus the Brewster County website. I know that there's been some comments on that. Hopefully they'll get back in the game with it.
Megan, do you know if there is any plans of getting any testing? I think that has a lot to do with our underreporting, that we don't have the testing that we had available before.
So at our last meeting, we tried to meet weekly, but it was kind of a up in the air thing. At our last meeting, we talked about it.
Mhm.
I know that Sol Ross was doing testing. Daryl had some, do you have more?
They're expired, but I can still.
We can
test.
still test you, it just doesn't report it properly. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I've reached out to Stephanie, so we are trying to get more tests in. I know that the president has issued, at one of his executive orders where they were going to provide an extreme amount of money for additional tests. They were also going to make it very open to the public that you could obtain the testing free of charge. So yes, we're trying. Is there an answer? No.
Yeah, and I reached out to state representative also, and I've yet to hear word from him.
We're trying. We didn't know all of ours were expired. Another, I call it a hot topic, is our emergency medical services. So after council had passed the emergency resolution and we signed the contract to Terlingua, the county did so as well. So we're both on the same page. I love that the terminology that was used in today's meeting is we're in a Band-Aid. We have a 120-day contract with Terlingua EMS. Unfortunately, when they took over, 2 of the members of West Texas Ambulance decided to step down. So they are going to be a little stretched on staffing, but they've got it covered. They're not extremely worried, but they don't want to go past 120 days. That would stretch them a little too far. In the interim, the task force has been established. We've already met multiple times. Our first meeting was on December 28th. We are working on an RFP or RFQ, a request for proposal, request for qualifications for EMS services in North Brewster County to cover the remainder of the budget year. Or do we look at a renewal? Or do we look at minimum requirements? Excuse me, JD Newsom, Greg Kennington, and myself are working on the RFP. When we issue the RFP, it will be identical with the county. So we are going to be on the same page for the whole North Brewster County area. So it'll be 2 different RFPs that go out, but they will be identical in requirements and what we're requesting. It will make it a little bit easier, especially to get responses. We are primarily under review. JD Newsom, if you don't know him, he's with the hospital district. He's been a wealth of information. I'm glad they hired him on. He has provided a list of like, what about this? What about that? As I told him and Greg this morning, I'm good with the legal side because I know the procurement for the state. I don't know what type of ambulances and the technical terms and those things where they do. So JD and Greg are going to help make sure that we ensure that this part of the county gets the minimum requirements necessary, and then provide the language with, well, what if we wanted the Cadillac service? You know, what would that cost be? We're looking to have that RFP issued this month. This is a very time sensitive issue. So we want to get this ball rolling faster than anything. Long term, this is the inevitable question we all ask. Well, we're having to look at this issue from 2 different variables, you know, a short term, you know, get through our budget, get through the end of the fiscal year. And then what about a long term? There's been lots of ideas. They're just ideas. Nothing's been proposed, nothing's concrete, but we kind of have the round table effect and we kind of, what could we do? The idea of a regional plan, an extended contract, an emergency service district. Does the city or the county fully operate it? There are so many different options for the long term that everything's pretty much being laid on the table with the task force, so that when presentations and we move forward, that there's enough information and the details and the questions that any entity could have, there's an answer for them. None of this is long-term is going to happen overnight. Our main concern is at the end of April that we have continued service. That is when the Terlingua contract does end. And we want to make sure that it's at a reasonable cost. I know that when the city went out in 2016, the Scudders were the best deal. They were half the cost of what the other EMS services were asking. At that time, his was a little over 300,000. Theirs was between 600,000 and 700,000, and that was 4 to 5 years ago. So we are looking at a huge expense that the city will have to consider, and then we'll have to review the budget and how do we take this on if we need to, or whether there's other options. I know that the hospital district, it's been asked about, could they contribute? Rick Flores has been kept in the loop. What can the hospital provide? So no stone has been left unturned, but it is going to be a fast and furious to ensure that we have something past April. I feel like I should pause for questions.
Yep. No, so if we can't find a contract for ambulance service in April, is there an option to extend for a short period of time with South County?
That has been mentioned, but there is no answer.
Mayor, I know that there are providers that have provided this service in Almaray and Pecos, both on a short-term and long-term basis, privately contracting with the public entities. So there could be, at least on a short-term basis, we could figure something out. If it push came to shove and Terlingo was unable to do it, I'm not suggesting that as a long-term solution.
Mhm. Yeah.
We are currently getting the list of all rural ambulance services.
Okay, good. Because my main concern is, last time it was what, 600,000
That
on a
was-
contractor versus the 300,000, of course, scutters are out. So my concern is about the public's well-being and the cost of ambulance service, because, let's face it, Alpine is not known for a high income. And some don't have insurance. They're not eligible for Medicare or anything like that. So that's one of the, I think, a priority that we need to really consider when we start looking at these ambulance services.
We're looking at every single possibility, grant funding, anything and everything that's available. We just have 120 days to do it.
Yeah.
116.
Yeah, thank you. I said that this morning.
And county. Okay.
A little update on our unofficial title, City of Alpine Finance and Utility Billing Building. This was formerly known as the Sunshine House. So there's been some serious delays. We did have a water leak in the parking lot. You may have seen for a long time there was a portion of the parking lot cut open. We were unable to obtain a plumber to fix it. I know that Eddie and his crew attempted several times to contact different plumbers. We kind of just got put to the back burner. It wasn't seen as a priority because no one's in the building. There's no reason to fix it. So U Construction, because they want the project finished, they actually reached out and they assisted us. They brought in a plumber from another city. I just think that it's important to know that we are very limited here, and people get so busy that it's hard to get scheduled, and we're 2-3 months down the road. So they did fix the initial leak. And during that process, there was a second leak. This one was more towards the underneath of the building. So they actually had to go in and replace more of the line than had intended. They did get that complete. We are still pending a few major things in my mind. Our fire escape plan, extinguishers, carbon monoxide alarms. We can't actually occupy the building until these are all in place. So the company that we use for our fire extinguisher inspections that come out, they do the Border Patrol as well and a couple other entities. I've sent them an email requesting, hey, how many fire extinguishers do we need? They're really good at coming in and saying, okay, you've either over compensated or you've under. So scheduling some time with them to get that fixed. The escape plan, we just have to update what was prior there. The names of the locations, the rooms, we don't have a quilting room anymore. So those need to be updated, and then we'll get them laminated and then put back up. And of course, just ordering some carbon monoxide alarms. The first department to move in will actually be the finance. The finance doesn't deal directly with the public on a day-to-day basis. So they'll be the first step to get into the building. And then the utility billing will follow after an extensive PSA. So we're not going to just pack up in a couple days, move over there and say, hey, you got to come pay your bill here. We will put out some PSAs, some information in bills and continue to provide that service to the city and the residents so that they know, hey, the location's changing, hey, the location's changing. At the same time, we're updating our vendors and everyone so that they know that the mail needs to go there and not here. So we're not quite out of the woodwork to move in, but we're getting closer. I thought the pictures that Jessica Bors took were fantastic. I would like, before we have officially open, to have a grand opening, have council and the public so you can walk through the building before all the doors get closed. But the overall project, that U construction, it's awesome. You can just notice how much brighter it is in the first picture. They cleared up the glass so it's not painted anymore. It's a lighter color. There's not the wallpaper and the blue walls, but it's just more open. The bathrooms have been completely redone. It's really a blank slate, and both departments are just harassing me nonstop to get in. So they're just as eager to have a space to call their own, to have the public be able to come in, and you have a much bigger lobby area. You have a little bit of flow, so you're not standing there having to wait outside, especially, of course, as we have COVID-19. So, questions?
No, it's good.
Megan, what kind of security system y'all have over there?
911.
Got that there.
So one of the projects, we have a lot of the keyless entry on the doors. Of course, the doors have been changed so that they are more secure. We did not get rid of any of the doors in the building. So all of the older doors were kept. Even the outer doors were kept. We try not to dispose of anything that could be useful. No, I'm not a hoarder, but never know. We do have cameras that will be going in. A lot of our facilities already do have cameras. So we'll be putting in those, especially in the lobby area. And then of course, where the cashiers actually work, where the money is handled. And we have safe. The big selling point to this is we're so much closer to the bank. There's no reason to keep money on hand. So we can always shift it over to the bank. They have a night depository box. We can walk across the street. It makes it a lot easier.
We are going to do with payments for municipal court clients.
They'll stay here.
I thought.
Yes, the court has officially claimed this as their building.
Okay.
So sanitation, another hot topic tonight. So we did issue an RFP November 9th. TDS did respond back with some clarifications, wanting to understand some of the RFP itself. We did answer and post to the website, so anyone interested would be aware. The deadline was the 30th. We only received one response. That was from Texas Disposal Systems. The others that had been cordially invited to respond did not. So we tried. The evaluation committee did meet on December 6th. We reviewed the proposal submitted by TDS and then responded with a long list of additional questions. Clarification, there was a couple of vague items. They did finally send back their response December 31st. So that was just over the holiday. The evaluation committee is pending another review of their responses. I thought it would be in the best interest after we kind of had all the paperwork in hand. I know that typically that we do make the recommendation as far as an evaluation committee. The recommendation would not be which vendor to go with. Obviously, we only had one, but more along the lines of what options that TDS was providing that we would like to 3-year, 5-year contract length, stuff like that, what services they had to offer. But I thought it would be best now that we have all of the information. This week I will send to all the council the RFP, the proposal, the evaluation questions, and then the response from TDS. I'm pretty sure you guys may have kind of the same questions we had. Just, so everyone's aware, the evaluation committee, consisted of Giovanni, who's in our accounts payable, Adelina, who's our environmentalist, Gio, and myself. So we tried to take a little bit from every direction. Adelina was, of course, a priority because she does handle a lot of the back and forth with TDS. So this week you'll get a nice large email with all the information. They will be scheduled to be on the 18th, so that there can be a formal discussion, recommendation, questions, anything that council has before we can actually start to develop a contract. I'll include Rod on the email so he can start preparing the contract, at least the basic terms of it. It is important that when we look at this contract, we also take into consideration, we have to update the ordinance as well. The ordinance specifically clarifies that it's a quarterly pickup and our recommendation is monthly, and they indicated that monthly is acceptable. So we want to make sure that we update the ordinance at the same time so that if someone looks at our ordinance, they're like, well, it says quarterly, but they're telling me every month, and these are the procedures in the ordinance, but the procedures have changed, kind of deal. So it's a lot of information. Of course, there's going to be a lot of concerns, the pricing. How do we get the different prices? How is it flexible? Can we change? And it's just a reminder that the contract is just for basically what they're covering. What we actually charge is not the same, because we do fund the recycle center, the employees, the environmental services projects. So the fee that gets charged back to the city includes part of that. So the residents aren't paying just what TDS is suggesting. There's also the portion of the increase that the city covers. There's city charges for those additional services. So that will need to be part of the discussion as well. Questions?
I think Karen alluded to the doors on the disposal, garbage disposal. That's been an ongoing issue because of the high winds here. They get battered, up and down every which way. Is it possible to get in with TDS and tell them, guys, can you put like a bar just to hold it, which, the public can flip over, throw their trash, put it back down, keep those plastic lids from flying all over the place?
I know that the city has charges for what is considered a lock bar. It locks the container so that other people can't access it. I don't know if there's like a temporary one, but I think that's a great discussion item with TDS because they may have a solution or something already that they can add to it.
All right, and it'd be a simple modification, just putting a swing bar up on the top of cover both lids. And then it's up to the public, if they don't put it back where it should be, then shame on you for getting that lid broken or whatever with the winds.
Do we know what's been going on lately? I've heard from a lot of people that their trash isn't being picked up and the stuff. I think, do we know what?
I can't answer that. I know that the schedule for the holidays is different. So they do give their employees days off, specifically for New Year's and Christmas. So the past couple weeks, if the trash hasn't been picked up, it's because the schedule shift. But I haven't had anything come through my office, and I don't have a customer service clerk here. They've had any complaints.
No, they're all over Facebook.
Yeah.
On Facebook, yes.
Why would they let y'all know?
Yeah, it's easier on
Well, I
Facebook,
think we
right?
got everybody home throwing stuff away. Got more people home throwing stuff away, people taking time off. Hopefully they'll get caught up. I'll watch Facebook and report back to y'all the 18.
I do know, and I don't know how true this is, but I have been told that they had 2 employees quit. So they would be short-staffed as well.
On that,
That is true. They had 2 employees quit. This morning, I initiated an investigation into it myself because of the Facebook postings. Miss Adelina is discussing this with them, and they're going to report back to me by tomorrow or the day after what they found out. They can actually ping the trucks to tell if they completed the routes or not, and I'm supposed to have an answer back within 2 days.
thank you.
Very good.
On that, I would like to thank Karen for urging people to bring it to our attention and get it out of Facebook. I appreciate that.
We
Yes,
try
ma'am.
our best.
I have an idea to bring more money into Alpine. More money.
We're talking about,
I've lived here all my life. For some reason, God is keeping me alive I'm 88 years old. I have a very clear memory.
Mhm.
I fell off of Mater Peak, 30 feet, be laid down the mountain, crashed in an ultralight, was rescued by a plane. I've had numerous other accidents, but I'm still alert and aware. I've lived here all my life. When I come here, we had 3 catalog stores: Montgomery Ward, Sears, J.C. Penney. We had a real town,
Mhm.
honest
I'd
town,
like to thank you for your comments, ma'am.
7 grocery
You know,
stores.
And I understand that because
My
I lived,
dad worked,
I lived during that time also, but right now we're in a city manager report. And what you're talking about is totally different. So if you could
but
hold
I
your
have
comments,
my say though, to bring the
Well-
money into Alpine.
if you could address that with your city council person and put on the agenda, then we could go ahead and discuss it at length.
Here you go, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you could discuss that with your city council representative, then we can put it on the agenda and then we can talk about it. Okay? But for right now, we're at a city manager report, which is totally different.
Well,
but-
this would really bring money into Alpine.
Well, and I understand that, but talk to your city council person and we get it on the agenda, okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the last item, and I know Councilmember Rodriguez had brought it up a couple times, is our employment. Where are we at? What do we filled? What do we have open? So we continue to update job descriptions. As you see, we have another one on the agenda. We don't have all of the job descriptions formalized by the city council. Some transitions, they just kind of got lost in the wind. But in order for us to hire, and many people have mentioned, is you have to have a job description. So departments are back at their shops, updating them, making some changes. There's been so many transition with what are we looking for as an employee? What types of jobs are we really offering? We tried to generalize it with worker 1, 2, and 3. And when you interviewed, you got hired for anything: gas, paving, water, sewer. It was very generalized. It was kind of whatever opening we put you in it. We're going back to a more structured look so that when you apply, you're applying for what you want to apply for. It's not you walk in and, oh, well, this is what's available. No, you're applying for a worker 1 with utilities, or a meter reader, or a gas operator, or you're applying for a maintenance worker with the street department. It has been a little longer process than anticipated, but we really want to ensure that we're not constantly coming back to council for slight changes. So any questions that pop up between HR and myself and the director, we try to work through it and then prepare and present to council the proper job description. Some of the delays. This one will always be a delay, is the requesting starting pay. A lot of our top end positions, we have what I call them project managers that apply. The building services is a big one. We have a lot of project managers who want 120,000 a year, 175,000 a year. And then they don't even meet the qualifications. They don't have the licensing, not even one of them, or the minimum of them. So the requesting pay is a problem. We are looking at how do we address the different starting pays. We are one of the few that start at $13.50. It's higher than minimum wage. It's higher than a lot of the local businesses can afford. McDonald's was front page news. They're suffering as well. It's really hard to get people to work, and we're competing with each other. We're competing with companies in Alpine and Marfa and Pecos, Presidio, Fort Stockton. So we want to be as up to date and up to speed as everyone else so that we can bring in those qualified individuals. But unfortunately, at this point, we're not. So we want to put in a pay structure so that when someone gets hired, they know, okay, I start here and I can move this way, or I can move this way, that they can see their growth. It's not a dependent on, well, when I get a minimal cost of living, or, oh, well, my supervisor doesn't really like me, so he may not give me a merit raise. It's no, your job description allows for it. you have the resources and you have the certifications and the tools and you can see yourself move up, but also have that understanding is when you move up, the responsibility moves up with it. It's not we're giving you more money to do what we hired someone at $13.50 to do. And so that's where it's kind of having that retraining and rethought process with, okay, we want you to be employed. We want you to stay with us. We want you to retire from us. And this is how you can grow. And so that they understand when they get hired, they can grow, but it's also dependent upon themselves. We provide everything they need to grow. They have to grab it and run with it. Minimum qualifications. We updated some of the job descriptions. And like I said, we have people apply, but they don't have the specific licensing. Or they don't really have the experience or things that are needed to do some of these positions. So it's hard to have the conversation because we want to hire people. We're not trying not to hire. We want to hire, but you have to have the minimum qualifications. Council has approved these job descriptions with minimum qualifications. We don't have as many open positions as one may think. Our open positions are a building official, executive assistant, part-time dispatcher, police officer, and an internship. Internships are non-going. They go and go and go. It's dependent on Sul Ross University. We get students in who want to learn a little bit about local government. They fill in some of our positions that we need additional help, whether it's be like filing and, how do we learn records? Gio's a prime example. He started off as an intern. He had a project and he took it and ran with it. Our building official, I do have an interview in process. We've been speaking with an individual, kind of a back and forth. When he initially applied, he was requesting well above the desired pay. We've been back and forth with him in regards to, okay, well, this is what we're starting at. These are your benefits. Where he's at, he has to pay for his own benefits. So he's trying to figure out, if the benefits are covered, is he actually basically taking home the same amount? It's kind of a back and forth. He is out of town. He wants to move here for family reasons. So it's good to have that in place, the job descriptions, the pay scales and all that, so that we can get people in here so that they understand their growth patterns. We had several applications for building official. Most of them, they don't meet the minimum qualifications. That's what's been the killer. We had 2 that did meet the qualifications who withdrew their applications. They found work other places. So it's been a little bit harder to fill that specific position. The positions we've currently filled are utility director, worker 1 for public works, a shelter worker, animal control officer, a dispatcher, police officer, customer service clerk, part-time records clerk, and part-time visitor center assistant. So we have them coming in, they're rotating. There's several other that we have filled as well. Unfortunately, within 90 days, they've decided, you know what, I want to go back to my prior job, or the oil field pays more. So we're trying to get people in here, but like I said, we are competing with everyone. So we don't have as many open positions as I had originally thought. When I typed this up, I was sitting there going, oh, this list is going to be forever. Lorena has done a great job with working with all the departments to get the interview set up, to get the applications. One of the big things that we do follow up with is we follow up with the references. When she presents something to me like, hey, I've got this person who's interested, in one of your positions, the first thing I say is, have we called the references? The references are a major part of the process. We can only ask the legal questions. Would you hire this individual back? You get a lot from people with a simple yes or no. Of course, you do have other agencies who don't follow the rules and regulations who will give you a whole earful. But it's important because when we bring in that person, we want them to know that we did our due diligence to hire them, and we want them to stay with the city.
And we're not the only ones in that boat. I mean, I drive up and downtown and visit the different businesses, and they all have help needed or help wanted. So it's tough, especially for a city our size.
It has become very difficult, and I think one of our big issues is the pandemic. It's done a huge impact on our economy, on our residents, on our staffing, just our job force in general. And we're trying to think outside the box. I'm working with Lorena to kind of get a better onboarding process, get something in place. So when someone starts with the city, they feel welcome. They want to be here. They want to stay. This has been, everyone who's been in any position has wanted to try something different. My direction with Lorena is more like, let's get them the city's pin that we have, 400 or 500 of. Let's get them a clean copy of the employee handbook. Let's go through everything. Let's welcome them. Let's sit down. Let's do the training, and then hand them to the next, their director, their supervisor, and then not have to come back to us. Not have to, well, I need to follow up with this paperwork. Let's get it all done up front. It's the little things. I know Heather, who's here, was HR for a short period of time. So she's seen the struggle with the ups and downs and the changes. And so it's an ongoing process, and we're hoping to kind of streamline it to get it better for the city.
Very good.
And we don't have sign-on bonuses. That's the other thing that's been
You
asked.
don't. That leaves us out then. Any questions?
Good report. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Before you conclude,
I'm done.
okay, just making sure.
You get me all month, by the way.
Okay, let's go to city staff updates then. We'll start with the police chief.
I have a little bit of a cough. I have tested myself. That's one of the wonderful things I have the privilege of.
That you reported.
But just to really quick on that, we have a lot of people that we are testing that are coming up positive, and we are referring them to get further testing to have that documented. But I'm probably getting at least one a day positive, and so it's going around pretty bad. But let's go with positive first. All right, let's go with my PowerPoint. This is my first quarterly meeting to the council, and my first complete quarterly meeting. And I started off with a high note. Police grants. We are doing. Thank you to Megan. Thank you to Marcy. They have done excellent in helping us to get these grants going, and it makes it easier when I have to do my presentations to the COG to be able to understand what they want to hear, and basically do my little song and dance to the COG so that we can get these approvals. But we have a bunch of grants. Operation Lone Star. We also have grants to the officer of the governor going. I'm going to talk to you first about the grants that we're completing. The body worn cameras and the body armor was $15,000. It's Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Assistance Program, and we made the purchases for the vest and for the body cameras, and we completed that. It was October 15th, I think was the day that I sent in my final summary on the grants. So those are always fun to have to do these quarterly reports. I have one due for another grant that's coming up. Again, 12 vests were purchased, 15 cameras were purchased, and these are the version that we bought. It's a body cam. They come on a little charging block, and we put them on the charging block, and it shoots right to the computer, and they download, and then the officers can make copies and get them ready for the reports. Another completed grant was the Border Security Initiative, $10,000 for overtime, and that's wonderful so that we can. The other thing on that is to make sure that we spend every single penny of those grants to make sure that we utilize every single bit of it. And that was completed. The local Border Security Governor's Office. And so when I had my PowerPoint done, I finished it early And so since then, some of the stuff is updated. So I have this next one. It says for the Operation Lone Star. Shows that I'm applying, but we were actually approved for that one. This one is for mobile data terminals, the MBTs, in-car computers, and police overtime. $45,000 for this grant. Wonderful to be able to make sure all our cars have the correct computer systems in them to make sure that there were officers. I can pinpoint where my officers are at. If they're responding to a call, I know where they're at. If they make a traffic stop, I know where they're at. And so it's wonderful to be able to just track everything that way. It just makes it so much easier. Again, we're going to be also getting some overtime offer for this grant. And so the next slide, we have $13,000. And I was very happy about this one because this is something I've been wanting to do forever. And patrol bicycle, we got to use it for our Christmas stroll down Soros Avenue. The one thing that I need to work on is that a bunch of our officers are short like me, and so they need a little lift on their bicycle. So, but we got roughly 13,500 for bicycles. I've purchased 2 bicycles already, a lot of the equipment, and it looks like we're gonna have some extra money, so I'm gonna buy some shorter bicycles and make sure that we utilize again 100% of this grant. Next grant, these are in progress. State Homeland Security grant, $130,000 for communication needs. We're purchasing 15 handhelds, radios, and then we're also purchasing 5 mobile radios. These will go in the cars, and we've Kenneth Klaus is a service provided on one of our local guys. He has a company in Fort Worth. We're doing business with him to get all that stuff updated, and he has already put up our North repeater and to go along with this. And so again, utilizing 100% of it, we're looking at what other communications needs we can fulfill with these grants. Wonderful picture of Kenny and Captain Fiero. All right, and awaiting funds for. So one of the things back in 2019, I did a presentation on a grant, and we weren't approved for it. But they have contacted us and told us that they have money left over, and so they're going to assist us with this grant. And so basically we had to reapply for it. And so the grant is for $56,000. We're awaiting the funding for it. Again, we're going to fulfill our communication needs. What we're trying to do is update our radio console and dispatch, which is over 10 years old, along with the other $130,000 that we have. Try to get those working together to purchase our new dispatch console. All right. Some of the events that we covered in October, we had a National Night Out, and it was I talked about at one of our council meetings here before. Went good. We need to do some improvement on foods, but we'll work on that. Soros Homecoming Parades, bonfires. Something new that happened at Soros Bonfire is that they moved it over to Jackson Track Field, and so they had their fire in there. We made sure that even though it is Soros property, we wanted to make sure that our citizens around the area weren't going to be disturbed by it, and so we made sure that it was secured properly and made sure that it wasn't going to be too big, and fortunately it worked out well. The Stable Car Show, always like helping out with that. It's just something very positive for our community. We get so many people that come from out of town and get to interact with them. In Bounty Crisis Center, we have the Candlelight Vigil. That's done in the middle of October every year. And that's just something very positive for the police department. we always had a good working relationship with the crisis center, and to continue that, this is just something that we need to continue doing. We had a new thing, Harvest Festival on Murphy Street. That one's done by Mary Ann Dello, and excellent job on that. We've blocked it off, Murphy Street. Again, with all our events that are during the night, we want to make sure that we have enough patrol. And so we make sure we schedule enough officers that are out there and make sure that the community is safe. Alpine High School homecoming parade and bonfire, those went down without a hitch. And so everything went well. And one of the cool things we got to do again is the Alpine pumpkin patch and hay maze. We had a lot of good sponsors. Out West Feed and Supply provided all the hay bales. I have some pictures coming up. We basically they donated about 100 bales of hay. And thank you, Heather, for helping me out. She did a beautiful backdrop for people to take pictures and stuff. So Out West Feed and Supply provided the hay. Porters provided.
They
Close to-
provided 100 and we called them that day and said, we have 100 more. So
Right.
they gave us 200
200.
hay total
Thank you.
because we needed more for the hay maze. They were awesome.
So it was a big old hay maze. The officers are the ones that built it, put it together, and worked out real well. Porters provided close to 600 pumpkins for each of the children. And this was a 2-day event. This was a Friday during school, and then we came back the next day and did it again with some help of the community service and some officers and Heather and Judy showed up, and so it was a good event. And so we
Because they were given free candy.
and so that went very well. We actually, while we had the event going on, we had other people going up like, hey, why didn't we know about it? I said, I've had this out and about for quite a while, but we will possibly have more sponsors to put that together. It was a great location. We had it there at the elementary school. I met with the principal and she let us organize it for 2 days. So Friday we had it there for the school. Following day we opened it up to the public. So there was little kids running around there. Real good event. I was real happy with the outcome. And some pictures. Again, the wonderful thing is that we get to interact with the public. If I can get to the next slide. Sorry, back to the police event. So we get to interact with the public, officers with kids. There's the officer setting up the day. Edward was very mad at me because his asthma acted up, but we got him some his inhaler and he was good to go. But we worked pretty hard on that. So it was a 2-day event and it just went excellent. And so let's go to next one. There you go. Biannual. We had our firearms qualifications, biannual qualifications. We have to have this for TCO purposes to make sure that all our guys are up to date with their training. I submitted my application for the FBI command course. If y'all remember with Chief Martin, I was scheduled to go to the FBI National Academy and canceled that one. And this was, instead of 2 months long, this is going to be 2 weeks long. And so that'll command courses in May 2022. I also submitted my application for LEMIT scheduled, and there are so many new chiefs going on right now that I'm scheduled in November 2022 to attend the LEMIT chiefs course. We've had our warrant roundup along with the court. We had 10 persons arrested. We have so many more that I have actually a meeting scheduled with Judge Cole on a number of topics, and that's one of the things that we want to do is I want to set up a standard program, because a lot of our violators are coming from out of town or from out of state, and they're just rolling the dice and hoping that we don't arrest them later on. So if we can set up an in-standard program to get them to basically put a bond on their citation, if they want to fight their citation, they can put that money down. If they want to plead guilty, they can just plead guilty that same day. But it's something that I want to take care of, because we're losing a lot of the, they're not taking responsibility for their citations, basically. And so that's one of the things I want to work on with Judge Cole. We have a meeting set up, I believe it's on the 6th, if I remember correctly. And our 911 systems for all of West Texas are updating. AT&T has a new company out of, I want to say, New York. It's called Carbine. And so they're updating all our computer systems. They're updating the networks that go along with it. And so we have a scheduled training for February to make sure that everybody's up to date with it. So we've collaborated with the Brewster County Sheriff's Office, Alpine ISD on threats at Alpine High School. As y'all know, there's constantly threats of school shootings, and that's one of the things that we have a good working relationship with our school resource officers from the Sheriff's Office to make sure that if they need any assistance, if they need to be out inside, then we can be outside monitoring the traffic and monitoring the vehicles that are coming in and out of the school. On the next slide, I have is, have y'all seen y'all know the damage that's being done to the underpass or overpass on the west side of town? This is just some of the damage that's done to it. If you can see where they're hitting it so hard with these trucks. I went to the grocery store. It's probably been about a month, and I saw this big truck right behind me, and I was like, and normally what I do is I'll take Gallego to my house, but this time I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna take Mosey, I'm gonna stay in front of this truck to try to get him to be aware of what he's doing. And he didn't get my attention. I couldn't get his attention. And so I sped up. And fortunately, on the opposite side of the overpass was a DPS trooper that's pulled over. And so I honk at him and I point to what's behind me. And right then the truck hits that bridge. And I don't remember what he had, but it just shattered out in pieces. And so fortunately the trooper was there. I was in my personal car at that time. So the next slide. So this is supposed to be like this big gap that's there. It's supposed to be like this other gap. So you can tell this moved a couple of feet away from where it's supposed to be. And so that's the damage that was done just this last time, where they had to actually close it down and do inspections of it and just completed some work. I'm not too sure how good of a work they did. Y'all know that it was scheduled to be a week long of a street closure, and they did it that one day. Again, I don't know if it was because of me yelling at the guy because they didn't detour the cars correctly or what, but they had it done that night. And so, but that's one of the problems that they're gonna have, is that it's gonna continue. So November police events, we had the art walk, we had the street closure, we had that's when we got to pull out our bicycle for the first time, was bike patrol, and no serious incidents. We made sure that we were out and about, make sure that everything was under wraps and that there was no incidents. So that went well. And so we're constantly doing 5Ks, parades, other street closures. We had the Memorial CBP 5K that was held in November. And in December, we had our Christmas stroll, street closures, no serious incident again. If you remember from the last time when I talked, we did have one guy during that street closure. The event was still on the west end of Soros. Drunk driver turned into Soros Avenue, and I was there and got him stopped, and we took care of that. But that's why it's so important, just to make sure that we're out there monitoring the traffic and taking care of our public. Next slide is one of our local drug dealers, something we posted. I'm trying not to post too much about arrests. I'm not trying to set too much influence on our arrest, but we want our community to make sure that we're aware that we know what's going on. And unfortunately, on this one, we have been monitoring this one for a long time, and we worked with it with our DEA counterparts, and we wanted to make sure that this one was noted because we had been working on that one for so long. So Lori Kirshner was arrested, and it looks like she's going to take the plea and serve her time. Next slide, we have Christmas in Alpine. It was a great event. I was really, I was scared how this was going to turn out. but I was positive. And so, but everything went well, and we closed the, we had my point about this one is that we had so much area that we had to close down, and it was, and we knew we couldn't be on the whole area the entire time, but we were doing our best to make sure we patrolled that area. One of the cool things that we started, next slide, is we started Operation Front Porch. We have been receiving a lot of complaints and again, Facebook, where people were stealing packages. And so we set up this program, Operation Front Porch. So, and we are, one of the reasons I created this was to prevent any stolen packages. And so if anybody knew that they were going to be away from home during the time, they just have it shipped to the Alpine Police Department, put their name on it, care of Alpine Police Department, and we'll take care of them. And we have one lady, she shops a lot. And so we probably get a package for her every day, but it's working out really well. We have not received any reports of any more porch pirates, but there's always things like that going around. So we just got to be on top of it and try to help out. But we want to be proactive and put this out there for the community. And fortunately, a lot of the community is taking advantage of it. And one of the things that I want to remind, since we're talking about it, is that I just don't want to do this during the holiday. I want to do it all year long. And so if anybody knows they're going to be out of town, they're going to have something delivered, change the address to the Alpine Police Department, put your name on it, and we'll take care of it. We secure it, make sure everything's safe. We still can't help to do anything with lost packages as far as FedEx and UPS goes, but we can try to maintain it on our side. So October reports for citations, we have 166. 911 calls, 238, and cases for the month were 38. No major felonies. We did have felonies, of course, but no major ones. Citations for month of November, 170, 157 911 calls and 38 cases. One case that I'm really proud of, Officer Chopolas is one of our night shift officers. He was on patrol on the east side of town, and fortunately he was alert, and he saw some lights turn on a Kubota parked at the Out West feed store, and then all of a sudden the chase is on, and so he pursued the guy. The suspect was arrested, and for multiple offenses, unauthorized use of motor vehicle, evading arrest. That was 2 times, evading arrest on the vehicle and then evading arrest on foot, criminal trespass and criminal mischief. And I'm real proud of Officer Chopolas. He's on top of things in the middle of the night. December report, citations, 112, no major cases as of 12/16 when I made this PowerPoint. And again, the last slide is going to be our Blue Santa. Our Blue Santa went great. I appreciate Councilman for offering her services. We did things a little bit differently because of the uprise in COVID is that we contacted the families, had them come to the police department and so they could pick them up there. And some of the families, I even had just the adult come pick them up and let them to provide their family their Christmas. That's all for my PowerPoint, but there's some things I wanted to add on to this. First and foremost, we lost two important guys to Alpine. Death of Mike Scudder and Henry Ogletree. Mike Scudder was a good friend of mine, and he'll be sincerely missed. In 1994, onto Henry Ogletree. In 1984, Henry Ogletree hired me here in Alpine from the sheriff's office, and I'm forever thankful to him for it. He wrote a letter of recommendation for me, and it means a lot. As a kid growing up here in Alpine, we always knew what he drove because he was TABC, and so but as an adult and getting to talk to him one-on-one when I worked for the sheriff's office and then with the PD, it was always just amount of knowledge that he just shared all his information with us, and so he was a great boss. Next thing, we're going to be losing Sergeant Edward Cardoza. He turned in his resignation. His last day is the 7th. As you know, he lost his wife this last year, and he's going to be moving a little closer to family, and so he's going to be missed. His investigation skills, he's a great officer, and so we're going to miss him. Back to Terlima Medics. Our officers have volunteered to drive for them and so we have some of our officers that are working for Terlima Medics on their off time to handle the ambulance calls, and so they got to get a little one-on-one on the driving, and they're going to be driving for Terlima Medics, and we're going to be assisting them in any way we can on or off duty. COVID testing, as I mentioned, we're still doing COVID testing, even though our tests are expired, at least to give the idea to people that they need to possibly seek more medical attention. And as of you know, I know Megan has told y'all, but the bridge was hit and damaged pretty bad. I got off the phone with a TDS representative, not TDS. The bridge was hit by TDS, but I contacted a representative from Texas Pacifico, and they're going to have workers out here pretty soon. He said either this week or next to start working on the bridge. So hopefully they can get that fixed and get that street open. One of the things that we deal with during the holidays, and I make light of it, but just the season for mental subjects. And unfortunately, that it just comes with our territory and our jobs. But we deal with a lot of mental health disorders during the holidays, and so that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we work on to make sure that our citizens, our community, are getting the help they need as far as from Permia Care and from us to make sure that they're safe. And on to the hiring. I'm a board member with the Law Enforcement Academy, and we had a meeting on the 21st in reference to hiring cadets. So that's one of the things that we need to look at as a city, is to look at sponsoring people into the academy that we know that we can trust and that we know that can get through the academy and possibly put them through it. The academy is getting more expensive. TCOL is putting more requirements on their training, and so they have to have the proper amount of training to get through the academy and to make sure that they get through the and I say TCOL, it's the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, to make sure that they get past they can pass the final state exam. And so that's something that we need to look at. We also had our second intern that completed her service with the Alpine Police Department, Ana Delgado. I would love to be able to hire her, but she was dead set on going back home to El Paso. And so I think Mayor met her, and so she, great kid. And so we're happy to have her on with us for that semester. And we did hire an officer. Unfortunately, he's going to be going, I don't want to talk about who he is, but he's going to be going to the drug task force. And with that, we also brought back Valerie Catani from the drug task force back to patrol. And she's fulfilling a corporal position. She's a tenured officer. She's retired from one agency as a detention officer, and now she's working with us as a police officer. But she's promoted as a corporal.
She actually went to the academy while employed with the city as a dispatcher.
And that's one of the things that back when I started, that was always part of it. I remember that when I was hired full time, the city council, I don't know who it was, but they were making fun because I was getting paid 4 checks, lifeguard, animal control, dispatcher, and reserve police officer. And so I think it's a rite of passage to start out as a dispatcher and work your way up. So any questions?
Where is Captain Farrell on getting his license for fire marshal? Was he not on just the testing, the state testing?
As far as that, I think he's completely stopped on that training.
So we're going to stop on that. He's not. He doesn't. Y'all don't plan on filling that need here.
He's really not. He wasn't. I don't think he's able to fulfill those roles as a fire marshal, and so he hasn't continued with the courses on that.
Any more? Okay,
We've been busy, and that was a wonderful presentation.
great report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Chief. I keep calling you Captain, but Chief. Okay, next visitor center.
Hello. I'm going to talk about some of the same things that Daryl did because we do events together a lot. But I have more pictures and less words. So the fun stuff.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, he and Megan tend to get a little with it.
Help it. I'm going to just start with some of the guest numbers. You can see from the chart here, we mostly saw an increase from 2020. October, it does show less visitors in 2021 than last year, but we were closed for 2 weeks because I had COVID. And we had not hired the part-time person at the visitor center yet. So the visitor center had to be closed for those 2 weeks. And then I just had a scheduled vacation in November, so we were closed for a week there. But we still had more visitors this November than last when you add in the Art Walk numbers, which was a huge weekend for me. And I'll have more about that later. Also here you can see that we have various ways to that potential visitors can reach out to us and request information about Alpine. We have postcards that go out, which I send hundreds of those out every quarter. Those encourage people to go to our website to find information. And then if they want to follow up with an actual event information package, we'll send that out. But the postcard directs them to our website where they can find a lot of the information that they're looking for without sending all the printed materials. We also have direct calls, and we do have some people that still request relocation packets. So those are a little bit different than the tourist information packet. We include the real estate guide and different things like that into the relocation package. The postcards and info packets both increased from last quarter. So this is an indication that people are making plans to come here. The other thing we do is mass distribution requests. The Texas Information Center at Langtree is the largest place that requests information from us, and that's there at Del Rio. So people coming on 90 are getting a lot of information about Big Bend. They actually put together an entire regional packet. So we send them, I send them stuff about Alpine by the hundreds, and they got more stuff. This last quarter, I did receive a new request. It was from Dyess Air Force Base. which is located in Abilene. And they are considering this as a regional destination weekend getaway for airmen. So on Air Force bases, they do kind of weekend events where they take airmen off base for different recreational stuff. It usually is physical hiking and things like that. So they requested information. I used to work at Air Force bases, so I was very excited to send that out to them. I also sent Alpine information to the state fair to be distributed by the Texas Mountain Trail. So that's our largest information request that we have is the Texas Mountain Trail Guide. That's the visitor guide that covers the whole area. We go through thousands of those every year, and they actually had a booth set up at the state fair, and they put out Alpine information from their booth for us. I also do information bags. Those are info packets that are done for larger groups that are coming to the area. So we have a Visit Alpine bag, and then I provide all of the walking tours in there, restaurant guides, information about the museum, those kind of things. They're also now being used for recruiting purposes. We've always provided them to the hospital. I keep Ruth in stock of them to give out to new employees that come to the hospital. But I've also done them now for Alpine ISD was going to job fair, and they asked me for 50 of those bags. So I put that together for them. Dr. Billings' office has also come and seen me and requested some. So more than happy to do that because we need teachers and healthcare here. So I think that's a good way to get out the word about how great Alpine is. The biggest request was for the Octane Fest that was in October. They've been doing the event packets for years, so we did 80 of those for them. So the total distribution was 155 event information bags that went out this last quarter. So now on to some of the fun stuff going on at the visitor center. If you could finally believe it, the work has begun on our bathroom addition and pavilion. So October, the work began with tree removal and preparing to lay the concrete for the addition. The new bathrooms and covered patio and storage are what was done first. Next slide. Then they went on to framing. So you can see that they're doing the framing there, and it's actually now complete. And I can thank you that the new water meter has been installed. They requested a new water meter to support 5 public restrooms. We didn't have enough pressure with the old meter, so that has actually been done now. Eddie also and his team have been out there. They relocated a huge monument that was out there in the back corner. It was for Mr. Berkeley, former mayor. So that had to be actually moved, and it was a huge concrete. He had to bring the loader or something in there, and I don't know how he did it.
Eddie showed me a picture. It is a large rock slab that was buried 3 to 4 feet in the ground. I thought it was just sitting on the cement slab.
It's from the old Cathedral Mountain marble mine.
Well, it is huge,
Yes.
and it took several people and several pieces of equipment just to not even 4 feet.
Yeah, it wasn't very far, but it was blocking the entrance to the bathrooms. So
And they couldn't get the concrete down. So
well,
we
and
had
the
to move
good
it.
thing is that it's been called Berkeley Plaza, and it was never very pretty back there, or Plaza Lake. So now it feels like it's actually going to be at something that's going to look nice for this gentleman that was a huge part of Alpine. So it's also not got a lot of information on it. So that's something we've talked about. Chris and I talked about working on getting some more information about him to include on this monument, because it is a huge.
He had that house across the
Yes.
street for the
Cheshire Cat.
yeah, and he wanted the county to give him a big monument, and the county wouldn't do it. So he put his own monument up, put it right there.
I wondered who paid for it. Now I know.
It will be moved again in its final place after.
Benjamin F. Berkeley.
They also, Eddie's team also had to do a bunch of tree trimming because the pavilion roof was going to get hit by some of the trees that are along the side alleys. So they got that done. And then they also, we had to remove the old cowboy cutouts that has actually been damaged. It was damaged by weather because it was never, a protective layer was never put on it with the painting. But then it got damaged whenever we lost all of the back tree to the storm 4th of July. The actual structure was broken. So we've taken that off the property because it was a danger. Next slide. So we're now to the process of starting to, the part that's more fun for me. We're choosing wall tile, lighting, and fixtures for the restrooms. And then there's actually additional concrete work being done. It's almost completed except for where the monument was to provide the accessibility ramps and sidewalks. It's almost completed there. Next slide. Once we finished with the midweek mercantile in November, work began on the pavilion that's in the side yard. A gas line had to be relocated and brought up to code. The slab will be poured hopefully sometime in the next week. But because of waiting on materials, this is probably going to be it will be the last thing that's completed. We're waiting on the metal from Mueller Buildings. So that is a big holdup. It's like everyone waiting on supplies right now. We will definitely be waiting a while for the metal, and they can't even pour that slab until they get the anchors. And then once they have the anchors, they can pour the slab. It'll still be a little bit before they get the rest of the metal building. But that's going to be the 35 by 35 pavilion in the side yard. So all the prep work has been done. Steps down that side of the porch have been laid. There's still going to be a little bit more concrete put over there to connect all the pathways from the back, because the accessibility ramp was put on the new parking on the back side. Next slide. So we're excited to be letting people know what's going on, that we're doing good things at the visitor center. Before our art walk, we let our followers on Facebook know that things are a little bit messy. Visit Alpine does have a huge Facebook base. So we let them know that there is that going on at the visitor center. The Avalanche did a story about the addition. So did Big Ben Radio. We also covered it in our last podcast and radio show that aired on New Year's Eve. Chris and I talked about what has been done and what's coming with this edition. So, so far, everything's moving forward. Looks really good. If anyone wants to come out and look at it compared to what we started talking about, you're more than welcome. They keep it pretty closed off because of the work that's being done back there. We don't want anyone to go back there and get hurt, but you're more than welcome to come by and tour and see what's been done. So any questions about remodel?
Vigilant Berkeley,
There you go.
former mayor.
So that's what's happening there.
Can I get one done?
I told him where you put yours.
Would you like to set your?
Not
Or
at
they
the
really
visitor
did it all
center. I have
done?
enough monuments there.
I think I
Thank you.
can pick up a rock outside.
Okay.
Okay, so next we go on to the midweek mercantile and music. So last time we talked I updated you right after Viva Big Ben when we got blown away. Really wish that pavilion had been done by then. But in August, we had a back to school carnival and partnered with Gumslinger's Old Fashioned Candy Store for that. They brought a carnival tent and did free face painting. We also had yard games and the kids could play. We gave away free popcorn. City Hall provided the popcorn. Rick Stevens loaned his popcorn machine. That was one where Doug Moreland from Fort Davis was the musician that week, and he's the fiddle player that's entertaining, and he kind of does kids stuff too. So that was a really good event right at the end of August. Next slide. In September, with the fall, we went back to hosting the midweek mercantile and music weekly after only doing it monthly during the summer. We did not have large crowds for most of September. We had 2 rainouts. When we started the mercantile the year prior, so many activities had been canceled due to the pandemic that we saw a lot more people there, but that wasn't the case this fall. All the school sports were back in session. People are back at work who were working at home before. So I think that's why we saw the decline in attendance come fall this year. Plus last fall, you had a lot of schools that were still doing remote learning, or families just were, so you had more actual family travel. I saw a huge decline from the end of August to the end of September in just travel in general from people because of everybody going back to school. Next slide. October, we, despite the visitor center being closed for 2 weeks, the mercantile did go on thanks to Chris, Megan, and Gio. They all took turns covering the weeks that I was out. We did have 1 rain out in October as well. But we were happy that we welcomed Chiso's Brewery. Our friends came out, and that was our most well-attended for a little Oktoberfest. They gave samples of what they're going to be offering. And again, that was the most well-attended mercantile we had in October, was when they were out. And next slide. In November, we finished with holiday music and unfortunately holiday-like weather. The mercantile wrapped up on November 18th, the day before Art Walk, and it was freezing cold that night. It was very, very cold. But I want to thank the vendors. They showed up week after week, despite the decline in attendance. When the midweek mercantile music started last fall, it was to give people something that they could do outside that was safe, give local musicians a place to play again, because the venues have been closed for so long. But we're not going to continue it in its current format. We know going forward next year, once the remodel's done, we'll look at it again and decide how we want to move forward. We know that visitors want someplace they can listen to music, have a drink, have someplace to eat. We don't want to compete with any of the existing music that's going on at our local venues. So that's why we did our stuff earlier. But we're going to revisit how we want to move forward with events at the visitor center that are not going to necessarily be this one, but in some format. So it will be changing a little bit. Next slide, Art Walk. For other events earlier in the year, we had made the decision to keep the visitor center open. So during Viva Big Bend, I was still at the visitor center. But for Art Walk, Megan and I talked about it, and we discussed the best way to reach more people was probably to be downtown. So we did that. We set up our tent downtown. I was at prime location there on 5th Street. I was the first tent before all the art vendors. And it really paid off. As you saw from the previous slide, I had 280 people sign in to my booth, and most of that traffic was on Saturday. On Friday, it was a lot of locals. I'd start to say hello and they'd be like, we're from Alpine. I'm like, okay, I can still give you a free bag. But it was definitely more traffic on Saturday from out of town people. We gave away the walking tours of downtown. Obviously, people are right there in the middle of the murals, so I gave them that one. The historic tours, the tote bags that we have, super popular. Saw people all over downtown with those to shop. One thing that I was really happy about, the Lone Star Cowboy Poetry Gathering was able to give me their flyer and schedule of events right before Art Walk. So that was something I was able to pass out to invite people to the next thing, because that's always our goal. They're already here for Art Walk. So what can we get them to come back for and keep coming to see us? The location on 5th Street also allowed us to do some Facebook Lives from the 5th Street stage. So again, that really drives engagement on the Visit Alpine Facebook page. Next, we have Christmas in Alpine. I didn't even talk about the Halloween that I did with the pumpkin patch with Daryl, because he covered that, but we did do that as well. I kind of just skipped over that because he already talked about that one. So sorry, I'll move on to Christmas in Alpine. We did posters to promote the weekend of events. So that's something that a lot of the events do their own event posters, but whenever we can combine multiple events together, that's something that we actually paid for the visitor center budget to promote Mountain Country Christmas and the Historic Association's light stroll and Sol Ross tree lighting. Next slide. So Visit Alpine, I was at the old schoolhouse, Sunshine House, Finance Building, whatever it's going to be called now. I was there with kids crafts and hot cocoa. We had painting of Christmas wooden face puppets, as well as some easier crafts for littler kids. Porters donated hot chocolate. Next slide. We made 10 gallons of hot chocolate. My poor husband did in my kitchen.
That's a lot.
Before it started. Yes, it was. We had every pot in the house on the burners to get it done. But we went through almost all of it. That was one of the street department's big, huge 10-gallon things. And we went through almost all of it. City Hall provided the candy canes that Gunslingers sold to us at cost. So we were able to pass those out. And we had about 100 kids doing crafts based on what I have left from that. So I think we had a really good turnout at the schoolhouse for that portion of the event. I will say I was very happy when Mary Beth from the library came and talked to me the next week and said, count me in to help with the kids craft next year. I was like, thank you. Because 100 kids painting at once was a lot. So that'll be something I'm more than happy to partner with the library on.
Megan and I watched.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Thanks.
I was still sick.
It was a lot. It was fun though. So next you can see the decorations of the old schoolhouse. This was wonderful. Thanks to Eddie and his team. They got the large tree up in the yard, and then the antique fire truck that I decorated with the lights and garland and everything. Even after the event, people have been out there all season taking pictures. I'll probably take it down like Friday. I think is what I have room in my schedule to take it down. But that fire truck is, I believe Eddie said it's a 1930s fire truck, and they drove it around one year, but it doesn't have power steering. So it's actually much better to have it parked and decorated for pictures. So that worked out really good. Next, this Eddie, also thank you to Eddie here. He actually swept all of Sol Ross Avenue before the event. He was out there on Friday running the street sweeper several times to get the street all cleaned up. TDS moved dumpsters that were blocking sidewalks. So a lot of people worked hard to get Sol Ross Avenue ready for this. Thank you again, Megan, for helping at the visitor center tent when I was inundated with small children. You and Judy were making sure people got hot chocolate. So thank you for that. After the old schoolhouse, the lighted stroll continued up Saul Ross Avenue. This is kind of what Gerald was talking about. So it was all the way from 4th Street up to the Loop, with performances by the Saul Ross Choir Band, Marfa High School Choir, the Fort Stockton High School Choir, Presidio High School Band, Alpine High School Band. And all that music lineup was actually done by the music director at Saul Ross, Andrew Allegria. I'm going to say his last name wrong, but he organized all these local bands to perform all the way up Saul Ross Avenue. It was a great, because we often struggle to even have bands in our parade. So it was nice to have everybody out there for that. Next was so it all finished up at Saul Ross. They all played together. The bands played all together. There was the tree lighting and Santa was there to visit with kids. Some of the other highlights, next slide, was the Morrisons provided their Christmas characters. We had hay rides to help people who weren't able to do the walk up Saul Ross Avenue, and then they gave people rides back down after it was over. Those were provided by In-N-Out Rental, and they had hay from out west for that. So it was really nice. There was another highlight. There was actually 2,000 luminarias lining the street. If you go to the next slide, you can see that was looking at Saul Ross Avenue. So those actually lined all the way up to the university, to the tree lighting. This is the first year of the light stroll by the Historic Association. The turnout was good. Mountain Country Christmas returned to the Civic Center this year with great attendance from vendors and shoppers. They had a huge event this year. So I think we will see both of those continue to grow, hopefully. One thing that didn't happen this year, the Downtown Association, the Alpine Downtown Association, has put on the Christmas parade for the last few years, and they didn't have anyone volunteer to organize it this year. I did hear from some disappointed community people on that, that are thinking about taking it on for next year. So we probably will see a parade come back. But that was something that didn't happen this year. So hopefully somebody will decide to do it again. But that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
Oh, and we did get our visitor center person hired. It was on Megan's list, but that's one of the reasons why I haven't spent as much, because we have a part-time person now that is starting her first real day in the visitor center tomorrow. And we had to find a special person who could go to full-time whenever I have a child again. So and we found that person. So she'll be part-time, and then she'll cover whenever I'm out on maternity leave. And then whenever I come back, we'll be able to have the visitor center open more hours with having a part-time person there. So
Okay.
thank you.
All righty.
Judge
Next.
Cole is actually out sick. She wasn't able to make it tonight, but Alex is here to do her portion of the report.
Okay, Alex,
And she's nervous.
she's nervous. We will be kind to
Look
you.
at her.
Okay, I just made a brief presentation. It will summarize the year and explain what's been happening in Porch since last update, which happened in September. I will start with the revenue. It dropped in August, but it started to steadily growing from September, and in December, city's income was $10,673, out of which 60% we got to give. Overall, 2021, next slide, please. 2021 brought the city $118,000, which is nearly 75% more than the previous year. Next slide is a caseload. Caseload varies from month to month, but it generally stays close to 2,200 total cases pending, out of which about 2,000 are active. Next one. No, I'm sorry. In September, we had 2,113 total pending cases, and 32 cases were disposed of. In October, 78 cases were disposed of, thanks to one roundup. In November, 62, and in December, it went up to 91 cases being disposed. Dismissals can be generally divided into 3 groups, and the majority is still pretrial dispositions. We also have stable number of compliance dismissals, and they grew a little bit. In December, it grew from 8 to 13. And we also have 1 disposition at trial in November. Next slide. From other updates, we offered Alpine High School an option to address the truancy situation. Truancy court was held years ago in Alpine and is now back and available as needed. New payment system in court is finally stabilized and fully functioning. It is more convenient for court users who want to bypass calling the court clerk and just want to make a payment. They can do that through in-court. Then we're still getting ready for jury trials. As of right now, we have 5 trials pending, 5 defendants requested it, and we have 1 bench trial pending by February. Dismissal docket was prepared. Right now, it covers the gap between 2013 and 2017 and includes 373 cases. Cases before 2017 are not displayed. 2013 are not displayed in my system, and once I find them, I manually add them on this dismissal docket. And cases between 2017 and 2020 are automatically added to the current docket if the defendants have new cases. Overall, in 2021, we have 165 cases out of 1,172 in preliminary status, which is pretty good comparing to 294 out of 771 in 2020. There's a notorious fact in 2021, we had more cases filed in municipal courts than ever. In previous years, it never reached the number of 1,000. Now it's almost almost 1,200. This is it. Any questions?
No, great improvements in the court system. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go down to public hearings. Public hearings to obtain citizen views and comments on special, use permit application by applicant Eric Faust for the purpose of obtaining an alcohol license permit from the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission for a convenience store located at 610 West Holland Avenue. Owners of record are Leonardo Sonocoy. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Any comments, public comments on this? Yes, ma'am. Would you please step up? Will you please step up to the podium?
I won't be able.
Oh,
to
okay,
stand.
that's fine. State your name.
Where can I say? Charlene Ripley.
Thank you.
My husband's name, Johnny Ripley. He works for the city of Alpine. I have touched base with some of the most famous people in the world. And I need to talk about his job. I need to tell the things I know. I need to tell the things that will bring money into Alpine.
Ms. Ripley, we are talking right now about a permit. And I'm asking for public comments on the liquor permit from TABC.
I can't hear you. I'm
Could
sorry.
somebody please?
Could I come forward?
Ms.
No,
Ripley,
no,
at
that's
this,
fine,
at this
that's
time,
fine.
we're talking about an application for an alcohol license.
I'm
But if you'd like to meet with us afterwards, maybe one of us can.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
He'll explain to her.
I'm gonna get the phone number for you to call, okay? And
Okay.
and talk to your councilman in reference to what you want to talk to, okay?
Well, I have something very important to say that will bring money into Alpine.
Let me get you the number, okay? I'll have it for you, okay?
Okay.
We'll sit here.
Okay, is there anybody making any comments on the special use permits? Nobody? Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Minutes, financial reports, department written reports, board appointments, etc. Notice to the public. The following items are of routine administrative nature. The council has been furnished with background and support material on each item or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a council member, in which event the item or items will immediately be withdrawn for individual consideration in its normal sequence after the items not requiring separate discussion have been acted upon. The remaining items will be adopted by one vote. Just call it on. You have something? Yes.
Want me to go ahead?
Oh, I'm sorry, Gio, you're the one. I'm sorry.
Would you all like me to read them for you as well?
Yeah, might as well go ahead and read all of them.
Okay, so we have 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first one is approval of December 7th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. 2, approval of the appointment of Wendy Little to the vacant Ward 2 position on the Planning and Zoning Commission. 3, approval of the appointment of Michael Eason to the vacant Ward 5 position on the Planning and Zoning Commission. 4, approval of Public Utilities Worker 1 or meter reader job description.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda that's as presented.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, except for the absentee vote.
Right.
Okay. Item 8, information or discussion item. ADA accessible parking at the American Legion. Councilman Stokes.
I was approached about the Legion needing more handicap parking. And from what Megan has told me, that's about as far as I got with it. That's up to tech stop, am I right?
If you're talking about,
Is it, I don't know. What I need to do is come out there with you. Let's
Okay.
look at it. But I don't think we can approve it.
Yeah, I don't think we asked for anything on Saul Rock on Avenue E. The problem we're having is on, and I don't know if I should be talking on it.
so Avenue E would be partly TxDOT, would have to go in and be able to do that. So Ross would be the city. Well, actually, it wouldn't be the city. It's really the property owner. When they went through the process to permit, which would have been way before any of our times, they would have had designated parking for handicap.
They've only got what, one? You're telling me?
Yeah,
they've
there's
got
only one slot for handicap.
And that doesn't seem like a lot. I don't know who owns the property where everybody parks out there in front of that old building.
The garage, that's
The American Legion.
American Legion, all that whole block is the American
You may
Legion.
have to put it in there. I don't know.
It would be a property owner discussion.
Yeah. We can talk about it.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
all
I
right.
just wanted to get it on there so we can let everybody know that it's definitely needed.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, and next we have Don Wittenauer.
So one of the things I'm getting back into process here is having the different organizations that the city partially funds or gives funding towards, one being the library. And then moving forward, we'll also have boards and commissions start coming to make reports.
That's good.
So Don took the bait and he's my first one.
Oh, Don, congratulations.
Our first victim.
Yeah. I guess
Actually,
the last time I was here was probably, I think it was in March of 2019 or something.
yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yes, sir.
We've had a lot of things happen.
But since you're my neighbor, I volunteered your name first. Oh, no, I didn't. I'm only joking.
Okay, what? So my name's Don Wetterauer, Executive Director of the Alpine Public Library. And I want to thank you for having me here. And I want to thank you for continuing to support the library. In my opinion, the library is a great resource for Alpine. I have to say that one of the first things that I looked at before I came to Alpine was I checked out the library. And then one of the first things I did when I got here was get my library card. And I've noticed we've been averaging about, well, before the pandemic, about 20 library cards a month. During the pandemic, it dropped down to 9, and now we're back up to 19. But I noticed there's people that move to town, and one of the first things they do while they're still unpacking is come to the library and say, what do I have to do to get my library card? So, you know, tell them what the deal is. So anyway, also wanted to tell you that the Texas State Library and University of Texas did a study, and they found out that for every dollar a community invests in a library, they get a $4.42 return. And they also found that Alpine Public Library specifically adds about $1 million to the community. About half of that is our expenditures as a business entity, and the other half is the materials and the services that we provide. So just want to go back a little bit to 2020. we started the year off really good. We had a really great Dancing with Alpine Stars. And then on that same weekend, we had two $100,000 donations for our expansion. And then 2 weeks after that, we had the pandemic. So we pretty much shut down. And on August 1st, when the county did the stay-at-home order, the library shut. We opened again in May, only we didn't open the building, but we started offering services. We had shortened library hours and we provided curb service. So people could go online, call us, email or whatever, and tell us what books they want. We'll check them out and they tell us when they're going to show up. We take the books out to the curb and they go on their way. Of course, all the library's electronic resources were available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a significant group in our community that don't have access to computers or internet. And so even though we had the building closed, I mean, these people had to come in and apply for benefits, look for housing, unemployment, that kind of thing. They needed computers, so we let 4 people at a time come in, either first come, first serve, or by an appointment, and use computers. So that was the only access to the building at the time. We regularly monitored the COVID condition in Brewster County, and we coordinated with Sul Ross and with Fort Davis and with Marfa to try to think about when things would be safe to open again. And we didn't have it this time. We shut down all in-library programming. We didn't have any kids programs. Our plan was to wait till schools open. There were several times that we thought we should try to open again, and then all of a sudden numbers started spiking and we decided that's not a good thing. So we decided to wait until schools open and see what happens, whether we wanted to start kids programs. Well, we never did any in-library programs in 2020 at all. So during the time that we were closed, like I said, we had limited services, but we kept busy. We quickly converted all of our in-library programs to online kids programs. We had a variety of online offerings. We started Book Points. It's a web-based summer reading program that adults and kids can use. We started something called Seesaw and Raz Kids, and those are interactive online programs where kids practice reading. They have a one-on-one interaction with a librarian and themselves. Toddler time went to online as a story time and aerobics, and we took advantage of our new content creation capabilities and added an international story time with Casa Hogar Orphanage in OJ. We collaborated with the Casa Hogar Board of Directors. They purchased computers and set up the internet, and we provided the content. It's been very popular. And by the way, we are receiving donations from the community to help keep that program going. We started producing YouTube science programs and story times that were posted on the library's YouTube channel. And somewhat surprisingly, we had online format attracted youth and teens that had never before attended APL programs. And we had to attribute that to the excellent work of the AISD in expanding internet access for public school students during the pandemic. We also made and distributed literacy packets for toddlers through 6th grade. Parents could come by the library and pick them up. The first month, we distributed 263 packets. We created different themes each month, and the demand was steady. In fact, we're still offering them now. People are still picking them up. The rest of the staff was busy fulfilling patron requests for books, services, doing inventory, and cleaning. Those library patrons were generally happy with the library available even with limited services. As expected, library visits were much lower than pre-pandemic times. Prior to COVID-19, the APL recorded 5.72 visits per capita. The state average was 4. In 2020, that went down to 1.7 visits per capita, and that was about the state average too. Before the pandemic, we totaled more than 46,000 visits. We offered 300 programs were attended by 5,000 adults and children. We continue to receive monetary contributions during the pandemic year, and we had many supportive and encouraging comments from patrons. One family included a note with their donation that read, "It is our pleasure to offer this donation. We are so impressed with the library and its services and activities, so impressed with the way you have adapted to the pandemic, but looking forward to the day when we can come in and browse the shelves for those special nuggets." As you might guess too, library sales were down. Rereads, the Rereads bookstore was closed, and Rereads adds about 10% to our budget every year. So it was kind of a big thing. We started bagging up books from Rereads and selling them at the curb. That didn't make a whole lot of money, but we were also selling books on Amazon. And during 2020, we sold 899 books on Amazon and made just over $15,000. And that was a really welcome addition since all of our other fundraising was just done. We didn't have anything going. So we continued curb service until April of 2021, when we started opening for browsing, slowly at first, and then we eventually opened up to regular hours we had before. We're looking now at this year, and I still don't know what's going to happen with all the numbers that are going on, but we're trying to start kids programming again pretty soon. We've got some plans for Zoom for Kids, Saturday science programming, and library lizards. We're also planning some adult programs. Travel Talk is expected to begin. Yarn Arts have been meeting, as well as the adult Zumba classes. And we're getting very busy with adult basic education. Some classes were combined, a combination of in-person and Zoom meeting. Right now, we're tutoring about 20 people for GED and ESL, and we hope to resume citizenship classes soon. But we're also getting a little bit overloaded with learners, so we're starting to look to recruit new tutors. The library took advantage of pandemic relief programs that became available during 2020 and 2021. We received a PPP forgivable loan to help pay staff and utility bills. We applied for and received the Texas State Library Institute of Museum and Library Services CARES Act grant that reimbursed the library for technology upgrades. We replaced 7 patron desktop computers, got a new patron printer, 5 Chromebooks, 2 laptops. We purchased a Padcaster, an Apple iPad, and an Apple desktop computer to create and edit digital content. We got a grant from the Ladd and Catherine Hancher Library Foundation that we used to replace 4 additional patron computers. Then we received another grant, the Institute of Museum and Library Services American Rescue Plan grant for enhanced educational opportunities at APL. Our plan includes an interactive whiteboard, a makerspace, additional 3D printers, and robotic supplies. In March 2020, the Education Week magazine summarized the findings of several teams of academic researchers who found that in-person activities are still the best method to keep the interest of K through 12 students. In general, we retain only about 10% of what we read, but almost 90% of what we experience. And Albert Einstein said the only source of knowledge is experience. To that end, we have seen that many of our kids are anxious to return to the library. Pre-COVID, our small robotics offering was becoming popular with kids, adults, and teachers. As in-person programming begins to restart, the interactive whiteboard and robotics can be used to enhance student engagement through hands-on experience. Students can write or draw on the board using markers or fingers, make connections in person through online networks, and all the while participate in group activities for the whole class through a shared screen function. Because it is interactive and immersive, the interactive whiteboard technology will make it possible for kids who have never attended any of our in-person programs to participate fully, no matter where they live. Indeed, if it were not for recent funding that has made internet access newly available to children living in remote In impoverished areas such as ours, these educational opportunities might not be possible. Helping kids catch up is what my library's summer reading and after-school programs have always done, and we're good at it. But the need right now is as great as it ever has been. With help of the funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, we intend to strengthen APL's capacity to respond to this emergent community need quickly, effectively, efficiently, and responsibly. We will do this by advancing digital inclusion in our community, improving our digital platform and online services, and upgrading our digital literacy programs with the latest technology. We received 2 grants from the American Library Association. The first one was for a community conversation on healthcare, especially appropriate during the pandemic. The forum was to provide a forum for area residents to discuss their experiences with healthcare resources in our area. Healthcare professionals recognize the challenges that they face in providing appropriate care. Others in the community recognize the challenge that they face in accessing care. Both groups see challenges in their own limited perspective. The conversation allowed individuals to see issues from multiple viewpoints. The goal of this was to arrive at an understanding of the issues faced by individuals that share perceptions with state, county, and city governments. We selected the book the end of October to use as a starting point for the discussion. The book, written by Pulitzer Prize winning author and journalist Lawrence Wright, is about a pandemic. We were fortunate that Mr. Wright agreed to participate in our conversation in an online discussion. The discussion was recorded and uploaded to the library's YouTube channel. The outcome of our conversation showed the need for a database of available healthcare resources. Alpine Public Library will be working with the Big Bend Regional Hospital District and area healthcare providers to create the database. Our goal is to have something ready later this year. The second ALA grant we got was NASA in My Library. APL was one of 60 libraries nationwide to participate. This is a STEM education initiative created to increase and enhance STEAM learning opportunities for library patrons throughout the nation, including geographical areas and populations currently underrepresented in STEAM education. APL is collaborating with SOROS, AISD, and the McDonald Observatory to do these programs. We had our first program in November last year with about 150 people attending, and we plan at least 2 more programs in the coming months. We received a grant from the Taka Foundation to supply APL with hotspots. We received 10 hotspots, and they are popular. The hotspots are always checked out and always on reserve. Very rarely are they on the shelf. And because they have been so popular, I applied for a grant through the Emergency Connectivity Fund to purchase 10 more hotspots. And that equipment should arrive soon. Then we recently got a grant from the Dorothy Louise Kyler Foundation to upgrade children's and young adult collection. We're going to upgrade graphic novels and include materials for struggling and reluctant readers to encourage and facilitate reading. And finally, for our Kids Pen campaign, we have raised so far over $620,000. We have 3 contractors that have expressed an interest in bidding on the project, and they're working on bids now. 2020 is the 75th anniversary of the library, and we are hoping that sometime this year we might be able to start the project. But because of the pandemic, everything has kind of caused problems. We're hoping that prices will stabilize somewhat and even come down from the recent highs in 2021. That's all I got. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
That's awesome, all the programs you all offer and the way y'all adapted to COVID. It's really.
Thank you for the update, Don, and as usual, your staff does a fantastic job at the library. I mean, you're a great asset to the city of Alpine and the community. So please forward that to them,
I
okay?
will. I'll tell them.
Thank you, sir.
I believe I have my rights because I came to the council meeting and I should not have to talk to one single person. I knew Judy's mother. I knew her dad, John Allen. He gave me a plaque for my wall. He gave me my husband a moped, and we knew them very well. I know everybody in Alpine, and I have my rights to speak up before the council. I do not have to talk to somebody that's not going to talk to me.
You have every right to talk to the council.
Do I have the right to speak?
Yes,
to the
ma'am.
council?
Yes, ma'am, but you have to be on the agenda. Okay,
How do I get on it? I need to do it now.
okay,
or I
well,
pass
you're
away.
not, it's too late to get on the agenda,
Look,
but
I go to the president when I need the help. I don't go through all these wiggle waggle
Mhm.
things that send you one phone number here, another phone number there, one there. I go to the top.
and I understand that, but we have a procedure that we have to follow, state guidelines and also our charter.
I
Okay,
would like to speak before the real council.
you can speak next month when we have our next, in 2 weeks, when we have the next meeting. We'll be more than happy to allow you to speak. Just get on the agenda and we'll give you the time.
How far away?
It's January the
I have a
18th.
money making idea.
Okay,
Now,
right, on January the 18th is the next city council meeting. Okay,
January the 8th.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the action items to be accompanied by a brief statement of facts,
I would
including
like
where
to
funds
speak
are
at the
coming
next
from.
meeting. I've known our chief of police. I knew Henry Ogletree, a very dear friend. I knew Mike and Mark. We took care of their mother. I'm an important behind the scenes citizen.
Right, and I understand that fully, but we need it, we need,
With some of the most famous people in the world.
yes, ma'am, I understand that, but we need to continue with our meeting. We have our guidelines we need to follow. Okay, so item
January the
18th, yes, ma'am. Yes,
and
ma'am.
I'm still here.
You will
I've
be
had
here.
2 falls since Christmas,
You will be here.
and I've got a broken foot.
I am sorry for that. Okay, first one is Councilman Johnson.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-01-01, an ordinance amending chapter 23, city council to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending Article 2, rules of procedure, amending Article 3, rules of decorum. And I would entertain a motion for that.
Okay, is there a second on this?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Can I just confirm that you, Councilor Johnson, made a motion to approve that ordinance? Is that what happened there?
Okay, and it's been seconded and no discussion. So all those in favor, raise your right hand. Chris, you abstaining? Okay. Let me see those hands again. Okay, we got 3, 4, and 1 abstaining. Motion carries. Item number 2, that'll be interim city manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-01-02, an ordinance amending chapter 2 administration, article 4 finance, establishing division 3 uncollectible debt to the Alpine Code of Ordinances.
Okay, so I need a motion, please.
I make a motion, we approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-01-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Any discussion? See,
If I can just, a little background, just so the public and everyone is aware. This has actually been a thought process for several years. It's been presented as a concept to several city managers. We carry a huge liability with the debt. It's unfortunate. We have accounts that go unpaid, particularly in our utilities. If you notice in the packet, you're looking at $300,000 between the two different utilities. We also have a lot of accounts that don't get closed because of a deceased individual, and so that debt sits there. The next meeting will actually have a policy also on the agenda besides the ordinance to go through the process of the procedures, how we would do this. There are some particulars that I think that need to be in place to protect the city, and the council has, some say in the process. So we do have a lot of unfortunately unpaid accounts, and we really just need to get them cleaned up. Move forward with sending them out to collections, either writing them off, but have a procedure in place so that we don't keep carrying this from year to year.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion?
I think that's great. The longer we wait to send them off, the harder it is to collect. So I think it's good that we're trying to move forward and trying to get some.
People would like to hear what I have to say. I have touched base with indirectly with the Tsar of Russia.
Chief, could you
I knew the
explain further,
man
please?
Johnny's out.
whose daddy
Johnny's
ran
waiting outside.
Do what?
Her husband's
Oh,
outside.
is he? He's the one that was in the Suburban.
He's out there.
He's
He's been
out
there for a
there,
while.
yeah.
He's
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. The opposed? Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, item number 3, city secretary.
Item 3 is approve order 2022-01-01, an order of general election for May 7th, 2022, for the purpose of electing 1 mayor, 1 Ward 2 council member, and 1 Ward 4 council member for 2-year terms, with early voting from April 25th, 2022 to May 3rd, 2022.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
So move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay, motion is unanimous. Item number 4, enter city manager.
Approve recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission to issue a special use permit to applicant Eric Faust for the purpose of obtaining an alcohol license permit from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission for a convenience store located at 610 West Holland. Owner of record is Leonardo Sinequi. I may have said the last name wrong.
sounding great.
Yep, sounding good to me. I think better than mine.
I so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Item number 5, interim city manager.
Approve the appointment of a city council member as a Brewster County liaison.
Okay,
I would make a motion that we appoint Judy Stokes as our Brewster County liaison.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? I thought we had approved her a while back. It was just a discussion.
There's not been a liaison.
Okay, all righty. So all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. You are the new liaison. Okay, and city council comments. We'll start with Miss Judy.
I'd like to thank Rod for bringing up the Attorney General ruling. Very sad about Henry Ogletree. I don't know when his service is, but I feel like he's elected official for a lot of that. I'm working on doing an art project with the high school about dark skies. That's just in the beginning of the works. They have a dark skies day, like April 29th, or I think there's an exact date. And we'd like for it all to coordinate, and that gets it in the schools, which gets it in the homes. So that's
Oh, good information. No comment?
Okay.
No comment. I want to wish everybody a better new year. And we all be safe and hopefully the economy will pick back up again. So, and please watch your social distancing because it's rearing its ugly head again. And what I'm afraid is if we have more people hospitalized, insurance rates are sure to go up. And most of us that are retired or on fixed incomes, it's gonna be extremely hard to keep up with those premiums. So y'all have a good evening. Thank you. And meeting's adjourned.